Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is me Manahil Morjovali and welcome to Future of Work. I'm your host Manahil and today we are joined by Ma'am Lizette Sutherland, a remote work expert and author of the Work Together Anywhere handbook. So, she has spent years helping teams collaborate effectively from anywhere and she's here to share her insights on the future of remote work and leadership. So, let's dive in. So, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here. It's very nice. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. So, before moving on questions, could you please introduce yourself for my viewers?
Sure. So my name is Lisette. I live in the Netherlands and I have been doing remote work related things since about 2004. And so I started by working at a remote company and then I started interviewing other people about how they were working remotely. This was way back in 2004. So then we wrote a book and got a podcast and have workshops all about helping people work remotely. And now, since the pandemic, everybody's doing it. So it's become really a hot topic about how to do it well.
All right, that's really fantastic introduction. Thank you so much for the introduction. So, now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Um, this is sticker. Okay. So my question is for you. What was your aha moment that made you realize remote work could be just as effective, if not more so, than traditional office settings?
Well, my aha moment happened. It's going to be kind of a wild story, and I'll keep it short. But my aha moment happened when I was able to. I was working at a traditional job, and it was actually in an office, but we were doing an online project management tool. But I really liked the team, so I went into the office every day. Then I had the opportunity to go on tour with my favorite band around the United States, and I didn't want to lose my job, but I still wanted to go on tour. And so the CEO of the company said, "We make a tool that lets you work from anywhere. Why don't you try working from the road?" And so during the day, would drive around and be with during the day, I would work in the van, and at night, the bands would play, and I would manage the bands and do the merchandise and things like that. And then the next day, I would work from the van, and then in the evening, the bands would play. So I sort of had two jobs at once. But when I saw what was possible, that you would be able to travel like that and work as a digital nomad in that way, it was really hard to go back to the office.
Okay, thank you so much for your great answer. So my next question is for you. In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions about remote work, and how do you address them in your workshops?
Ooh, that's a great question. So most common misconceptions. Well, I'd say the first thing is that people think that remote work is working from home. It's not working from home. Everybody has a totally different preference for where they like to work. My husband loves working at the office. So he found a job where he can go into the office with other people that like being in the office. I love working remote, right? I would hate to go into an office every day. So we each get to choose our own preference. So I think the most common misconception is that remote work means working at home. It can be in a co working space, it can be anywhere. The second is that remote work isn't real work. And actually, this took a long time for people to realize that remote work is real work, that what we're doing just because we're in a different location doesn't make it less valuable than when we're at the office. So I even towards the pandemic, until the pandemic, my husband would say like, "Yeah, but you're not really doing real work," because I was working at home. But now everybody realized that remote is really real work. And then I guess another misconception is that remote workers are lazy. That is totally not the case. In fact, during the pandemic, all the data showed that more people were burning out than were being lazy. And so what we saw was that when people like their work, they tend to work more. And so I would say most remote workers are not lazy. In fact, we're the driven ones because we love this lifestyle.
I also love the style of remote work, and I believe that remote work is like a dream job. We can do remote work anywhere in the world, and we can remote work, we can do remote work in coffee shop and wherever we want, we can do. And I also had to go office.
You also had to go
So
where?
office,
Ah, right, right. Yeah, I'd had.
as you said, that when we go office, we have colleagues and we have too much like work and we can't handle that. But we when we work in home or somewhere wherever we are working, so we can do whatever we want, and we can do on our bedrooms, on our like on our sofa also. So that's why I like.
Yeah, indeed. So you like the freedom to choose where you want to do your work, right? Where it's most comfortable for you. Yeah. I cannot work from sofas or beds or anything. I have an office. I'm so lucky to have my own little office in my room with the
Mhm.
desk, and that's where I like work. And what I like about it is that I can close the door and leave it behind so that my work isn't sitting on the kitchen table waiting for me. I like keeping it in a room and it only happens in that room. So that helps me keep the work life balance a little bit better.
Yeah, we can also set our office
Yeah,
like home office.
exactly. That's the ideal. If you have the room, if you have an extra room, I mean, if you're lucky enough to have that, then yeah, a home office is a great way to do it.
Yep. So now let's move on to the next question. My next question is, you will authored the Work Together Anywhere handbook. If you had the updated now, post pandemic, what new chapters or concept would you be included?
That's a great question. I love that you asked that. Uh, there, I would include more information about asynchronous working. So things that we don't have to have meetings for, that we can share a Google document. Like I've been working on a presentation that I'm going to be giving with a colleague of mine, and she's been on vacation, but she's been working on the slides while on vacation. We just go back and forth in the Google Doc. There's no meeting, there's no time, as long as we all get it done by the time of the presentation, it all works out. So more on asynchronous communication because a lot of people are suffering from too many meetings. The other thing that I would add is talking more about working out loud and how to make our work visible to other people. Because one of the reasons for the return to office mandates right now is because CEOs are saying that people are just disappearing and they don't know where they are and they don't know what people are doing. And then that causes you to feel a little bit less connected to your team. So if we can make our work more visible, if we can radiate information so that people understand what we're working on, then it helps you feel more like a team, and it also helps understand what other people are doing. So that feels good, and it helps you also figure out like what work is important for me. How do I fit into the bigger picture? And then the last thing I would add, and I couldn't have known this when I was writing the book, but one of the more um, a new position that is happening right now is something called the head of remote. And it's the person that sits with the CEO in between sort of operations and HR. And this head of remote helps to make sure that everybody in the company is able to work in a flexible first way, no matter where they are. So you make sure everybody has tools, you make sure everybody has the training, you make sure everybody understands the ways of working, that there's a company handbook and the right people are hired that can work in this way. So it's a new role. So those are three things that I would add to the book. But man, writing a book is very hard. That was harder than I expected to be. So anybody out there, start early and write every day.
All right, that's really good. Thank you so much for your fantastic answer. I really love that. Your like, what would you add? So thank you so much for your answer. So I have also written my book also on remote work.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Yeah, because I'm working on it, so that's why my mentor said you can also write book on your on your whatever you do in remote work, so you can write it. So I write it myself. So
Congratulations. Yeah.
yeah, my book name is How to Earn in Dollars Sitting at Home with a Remote Job.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, how do you see the role of leadership evolving in the context of hybrid and remote teams? What new skills are leaders required to develop?
Ooh, another good question. The role of leadership. I really believe that leaders are there to set the goal and to visualize what success looks like. And then the rest of the time, they're focused on getting the roadblocks out of the way and just getting out of the way so that people can go where they've set the goalpost to. So that means really giving people the autonomy to do the work in the way that they think that it should be done. Right? You say like, okay, it has to be done in this sort of way, but ultimately it just needs to look like this. And however you do it is fine. And as long as it's legal and within budget and things like that, however you do it is fine. So I think that that's sort of the role of the leader. Now, in this hybrid workspace, it's really difficult. Leaders really need, because what happens is the hierarchy flattens. There's not a boss and there's not command and control. That's just not how the remote workspace works. It can't work like that. And so leaders have to understand how to flatten the hierarchy and make things more visible. So that means getting feedback more often, doing sentiment tracking and figuring out like how do people feel, uh, what to do about it, like making sure that people's well-being is doing that they're not working too much, they're doing something at a sustainable pace. This we're moving from the command and control leadership to more empathetic leadership, right? Of just taking care of our team and giving them the autonomy to be the professionals that we hired them to be, but making sure that everybody on the team is doing well. So I think leadership, that's sort of the role that lead the direction that leadership is moving right now. And it's really easy to say like, oh, you just do this, but it's really really hard to do that. We're used to command and control, a lot of us, and when that flattens, there's a lot of weird issues that come up. So the best thing to do is create a team agreement for how you're going to work together and just set those expectations. So, you have the core working hours or, certain practices that you always do. Make the work as visible as possible so everybody knows what's happening. So if somebody falls behind, that we can all see it and help that person catch up. And then I would say lots of feedback and reward people for a job well done. Everybody likes to be rewarded, and it's an easy way to increase morale on the team.
Yes, you are 100% right. Thank you so much for your answer. So, what are some innovative methods you've seen or developed for fostering a strong company culture in a fully remote or hybrid environment?
Well, since you're asking for innovative, my favorite innovative method is people who are using virtual offices. So these are offices that you can go to online. It's just like, you're looking down at a floor plan of an office and you can see who's in all the different rooms, but you can only hear and see the people that are in the same room as you. So what that does is it makes it feel like other people are around, and you can see like, oh, the dev team is having their daily stand up meeting and Cliff is in there with a client, and oh, Chance and Henrique are talking today. Like you can sort of see what's happening around you, and you're accessible, so people don't have to ask like, hey, do you have time right now for a meeting? They can see that you're accessible and they can just knock on your virtual door. So for me, these this it's called spatial working. So this way of spatial working, I think, is really the innovative way to go. And when we're working hybrid or remote, I haven't myself experienced anything that gives you that sense of team as much as I have when working in a virtual office.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your answer. So, how do you think the rapid advancement in AI automation will impact remote work? Do you see it as a threat or an opportunity for remote workers?
I have no idea where AI is going. It is hard to predict that. And in terms of, all work, it's taking over the more simple tasks. Like everybody's using it for content creation and writing and thinking through. I mean, I use it as like a business coach and, to think through situations. So I really think AI is, it's going to help hopefully make all of us smarter and sort of bring up the level of everything and, give us this great collective knowledge. But there's lots of things to be scared about and there people are out there warning us about it. So I'm not smart enough to really understand like how all of this can be affected. So I'm cautious, but I like to look at things as opportunities and not be scared of them. So I'm cautiously embracing how it's being used, and I hope it can be used to one, not that more people need to work. I think that there more people can work less. Like we could spread the work out amongst people. AI can do the boring stuff and people can do the fun, creative stuff, and we can spread it out a little bit more. So I'm hoping that it will help more, create more equality in work. But I don't know, I'm scared with these kind of tools because history has shown that, it can go either way. So let's be cautiously optimistic and hope for the best.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for your answer. So, what, with the rise of digital nomadism, how do you see the concept of work-life balance evolving in the future?
It's, work life balance is really personal to each person. We are all experts of our own productivity. And some people love to blend the work and life. And, like you go for a walk and then you do some work and then you do some laundry and you do some work and then you do some lunch and then you do some work, right? You like to blend your day like that all the way throughout the day. And other people are like, I like to do my work between 9 and 5. And then I don't want to think about it. I don't open it. I don't do anything with it. Right. Everybody has like a different way of doing it. So in the future, in terms of digital nomadism and all of that, I think people will just become more aware of their own preferences and design their lives around those preferences as much as they possibly can. Like maybe you want to be home so you can be with my family. My bookkeeper, Tahira, is in India and she gets to stay home with her family and work from home. And like that's exactly what she wants to do. For me, I like the freedom to design my day. Like I want to go running and I want to, go play with the cats. And I just like to design my day around. So everybody has their own personal thing. I don't know where it's going. I just hope in the future that we're not talking about remote work anymore, that it's just going to be work.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your great answer. So, what is your vision for the future of work in a world where location no longer defines employment opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for people to love the work that they do. That's sort of a goal. I used to belong to an organization called Happy Melly, and the idea was just to help people become happier at work, whatever that meant for you. For some people, it's having a nice office. For other people, it's having more time with their family. So how can we make people happier at work? Because it shouldn't have to be a terrible thing that we do. It could be like a joyous part of our lives. So I'm always worried, thinking about, well, how can we make people happier at work? I think flexibility and freedom is one of the number one things that everybody wants. And so that's why I'm such a believer in remote work. And then I also, as like a bigger goal, I really just wish that all creatures would be free from suffering in general. And so that's sort of my bigger like world hope that would of course never happen, but it's just you can, it's my world hope. But and I think that remote work is a little bit a part of that. Just that freedom, the freedom to do what you want. And most people want to make the world a better place.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for your answer. So, do you have any questions, or should I wrap our interview?
Well, I have really 2 more minutes, but I do have a question for you about your book. What is your number one tip for earning money working at home?
Yeah, my first step is to make connections. Then, when you make connections with people in your field, so you can make money very easily.
Whoa, make connections, build relationships. I love it. A lovely tip. And
Thank you.
what do you personally love about remote work for you personally?
I personally loved about remote work is freedom.
Ah, all right. So that last bit resonated then because you also love the freedom.
Yep.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I also enjoyed our conversation. So that's a wrap for in today's episode of Future of Work. A huge thank you to Ma'am Lizette for sharing her valuable insights on remote collaboration and evolving workplace. If you found this conversation helpful, be sure to check out Ma'am Lizette's book, the Work Together Anywhere Handbook, and her podcast for more tips and strategies. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who's navigating the world of remote work. Until next time, keep exploring the future of work. Thank you. Bye.